Hey everyone, if you watched me yesterday, you'd realize that I was at the beach, and so I'm recording two sessions here. That was Proverbs 30, and now the last one, Proverbs 31. Thank you for being with me in this journey of 31 days in Proverbs. And I pray this isn't only going to be the time that you read Proverbs, but that you'd read it on a regular basis. It's good advice, just in general. Great for kids, great for family devotions. Every time you read Proverbs, there's always another verse that you could pull out and teach your kids and say, hey, this is the Bible, this is not what I'm saying. So I encourage you, read through Proverbs and learn from it. And this is what Proverbs 31 says. The sayings of King Lemuel containing this message with his mother taught him. O my son of my womb, O son of my vows, do not waste your strength on women, on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, to guzzle wine. Rulers should not crave alcohol, for if they drink, they may forget the law and not give justice to the oppressed. Alcohol is for the dying, wine for those in bitter distress. Let them drink to forget their poverty and remember their troubles no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, speak up for the poor and helpless, and see that they get justice. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She finds wool and flax and busily spins it. She is like a merchant ship, bringing her food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. She goes to inspect the field, buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. She makes her own bedspread. She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women of the world, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise. Chapter 31. The verse I wanted to focus on is Proverbs 31, verse 10. And it says this, a wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. That is in chapter 31, verse 10. You know, it wasn't until my children were born that I really understood what unconditional love was. Especially my daughters, you look at them, they're beautiful little children, and they're cute as heck, too. And it's weird, though, because I would have unconditional love for my children, no matter what they do, no matter what they've done. Especially when they're babies, you love them. They poop, they pee, they vomit, they make messes. Yes, you get a little angry, but you love them. But then when I look at my wife sometime, it was a little different. But when I think about my wife in contrast, and if you think about your spouse, it's always conditional. When they do something wrong, you kind of get frustrated with them. You kind of are more judgmental or expecting a lot more. And then maybe hold them accountable for certain things rather than just accepting them and loving them the way they are. And this goes both ways for husbands and wives. I'm sure that wives more so, I'm sure, hang on to more issues about their husbands than husbands do about their wives, but we both do. But this challenged me a little bit more, that we need to love our spouses, especially as husbands love our wives and wives love our husbands, because that's the way the Bible says it. Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Now I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but hey, it's biblical. I'm just saying what's there. We are supposed to change our outlook on those we love. Remember the first time you laid eyes on your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend, but mostly spouse, because this is for husbands and wives. You'd love them, you're enamored by them, and whatever habits they had, you'd accept. But then as time goes by, who changed? Did you change, or did she change, or did he change? But the reality is, it doesn't really matter. We are supposed to love each other unconditionally, and to seek each other out on a regular basis. How conditional is our love to our spouses? Do we cherish them more than priceless rubies? Did you love your spouse the same way you first met them? And I'd have to say no, I don't. At times I love her more. At times I love my wife less. And that goes for all of us. But then we have to make an attempt to really value what God has. Who is established, or what is the verse that goes here? I'm looking at my notes real quick. A wife of noble character who can find, she's worth far more than rubies. When we look at our spouses, do we see them as more precious than rubies? Or are they just another frustration in our life that we disregard? You know, I look at the fact that my grandmother just passed away a couple of days ago, and it's been okay. It hasn't been super hard since I know where she's heading. But the time that I have left with her is gone. That's it. I appreciate the fact that I had some time to say goodbye before she passed away. Reminded her of little stories. I even reminded her how it was funny when I was talking to my grandma. My sister and I were talking with my grandma through FaceTime on Facebook actually. My uncle put it up for her to hear us and see us. And my uncle said she can't really respond to anything right now. She may be awake, but her eyes are not open. But when I talked to her, I reminded her about how she used to take my sister and I to McDonald's. And every single time she would order Filet-O-Fish. And I told her, Grandma, if you want me to order you a Filet-O-Fish, just wait for it. I'll send it delivery, priority mail, or express mail. If it's express, it'll get there in a day. If it's priority, it'll get there in 2. And she kind of opened her mouth a little bit. But those are moments that are cherished. And the question goes back to those that we love too. Specifically, my wife isn't my grandma, or your spouse is not your grandmother, but the reality is we have a short period of time in our lives. We don't know where tomorrow goes. And even during this time period too, our world is going through a pandemic. And here in the United States, we're still in it compared to the rest of the world. The question is, what are we going to do with the time that we have? Are we going to cherish this time? Or are we going to grumble and whine and complain? We may lose a family member. And if you do, I'm very sorry. So take the advantage of the time. Here, me sitting here in Huntington Beach, I'm wearing my mask, but since I'm speaking, I'm keeping it down. A lot of people aren't, and they're risking it. You see on the beaches, no one's really wearing it. And maybe it's safer here because, there's a lot of air and wind blowing around. And it's mostly Asian people who are wearing their masks. Go figure. It's hard for me to fathom why people are willing to risk their lives just because of a face cover. So they could prolong either their lives or their loved ones' lives or the ones around them just to spend a little bit more time. Because our spouses that God has given us, no matter how perfect or imperfect they are more precious than rubies. And one of the ways to change the world is to love your spouse. And the reason why I say this is because when children see their parents love each other, work together in unison, united, then they could see that, the family unit is something valid. And within that, parents can then teach their children. And if parents can teach their children, then the world has an opportunity to change. Because if people on the streets teach our children, we'll see a lot of brokenness. It takes the family unit. Love your spouse so that you can change the world. Love your spouse so you can appreciate what God has given you. Love your spouse because they're more precious than rubies. And love your spouse because time is short. They could come at any time. So my friends, that's Proverbs 31. There's other great things in there. I always say this every single time. But it is very true. Keep reading the Bible. Grow close to the Lord. Again, there's not a lot of time. Work out your salvation and make sure everything's great. Alrighty, I'm going to continue on kind of taking it in and spending some quiet time here at the beach for myself. Be ready for tomorrow. We're in a new devotional. Maybe I'll take a day break so I can figure things out, but we'll be going through a new series and hopefully you'll stick with me through that too. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.